So a bit of an embarrassing exchange between myself and Jim, the founder of White Coat Investor. He starts off the email with $30,000.
Are you joking?
My friends, I think you're going to be just as surprised as I am when I tell you this. Half of doctors at the age of 50 are not even millionaires. And by the time they retire in their mid-60s, a quarter are still not millionaires. That is just absolutely mind-blowing. This is an article from the White Coat Investor, and I love his opening line, which is, "A doctor who doesn't retire as a multi-millionaire has failed, at least in a financial sense." There, I said it, hot take, tweeted out. Maybe it'll make some people feel badly, but I no longer care, because I think those physicians who are en route to multi-millionairehood need to be shocked out of their complacency, and maybe this hot take will help do it. So, this is data from a Medscape survey back from 2019. They no longer do this. One thing I thought was interesting is, in the under 28 group, 4% supposedly have a net worth greater than $5 million, which is very impressive at that age. I would say, number one, the most likely explanation is trolls. But number two, it could be, from a very wealthy family, obviously, or they got super early in crypto in 2012, and that blew up. But what is this showing? This is showing what we call net worth. And net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. And this is how Jim Dolly explains it, the founder of White Coat Investor. Net worth is the measurement of wealth. Everything you own minus everything you owe. We're not talking about just your retirement nest egg. We're talking about everything. Your bank account, your investments, your retirement accounts, your home equity, your cars, clothes, jewelry, everything else. Although, let's be real, normally when people are calculating their net worth, I don't look at my iPad and my computer and I calculate that into my net worth. Technically, yes, but usually what people actually do, I use this tool called Empower, and I've been using this since I was actually starting residency because I had a very much negative net worth, and I slowly wanted to see it hit zero, and then slowly go up from there. I still remember at the time when it hit zero, that was a big achievement, a big moment in my life, right? But what I put in my Empower account would be all of my credit cards, all of my bank accounts, everything like that, but also my home mortgage, my car loans, at least. I actually don't even put my cars as assets because they depreciate, and I don't want to overestimate how much they're worth. And by the way, if you guys want to check out Empower for yourself, I found it very helpful. I've been using it for more than a decade. You can check out the link down below. But yeah, this sentence is shocking. Less than $500,000 after 30 plus years of physician paychecks. That's just mind-blowing. And then he addresses some of the unfortunate things that can lead to these suboptimal financial outcomes, such as maybe a doctor had multiple divorces, splitting wealth and income in half every time, or they were disabled early but never could obtain disability insurance due to medical issues. That's actually relevant to me because when I was in residency, I tried securing disability insurance because I was training to be a plastic surgeon, and I wasn't actually able to get anyone to give me a policy simply because I'm on infliximab, also known as Remicade, which is a biologic agent for inflammatory bowel disease. So just because of that, I wasn't able to qualify for any disability insurance, or they were scammed out of some huge sum of money. But that's not happening to half of doctors. Sorry. The reason doctors aren't building wealth is because they aren't doing steps 2 and 3 of this incredibly complex formula of wealth building. Make a lot of money, don't spend a lot of money, take the difference between what you make and what you spend, and invest it in some reasonable way. Well said. And as for point number 1, the average physician salary in the US, as of the most recent data, is $374,000. If you're making that every single year, and you pay taxes, and you have your car payments, and your mortgage, and your family expenses, yada, 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 and you still aren't able to accumulate a substantial multi-million-dollar net worth by the time you're at retirement age, then you're probably just overspending, quite honestly, or very poorly allocating your investments. So the question becomes, okay, we're being very judgmental about those who are not saving enough and don't have a large enough nest egg and net worth. What should doctors actually retire on? And Jim walks us through some hypotheticals with using very simple math. So in 2023, the average doctor salary was $363K, and most doctors are going to be finishing their training around their early 30s. So let's say the average career is 30 years, just for simplicity. And if you save 20% of $363K, which is $72,000, then after 30 years, you would have $4.8 million. And the mind-blowing thing is, when you're a pre-med or a med student or even a resident and you think about, oh, I'm going to be an attending soon and I'll be making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 depending on your specialty. It's hard to even imagine spending that much money. You don't know what you're going to do with all of it, but then lifestyle inflation hits. And next thing you know, your flying business class and you're going on these expensive vacations and you're driving some fancy BMW, or if you really just care about flash and don't know anything about cars, you'll go for a Maserati as an example. And this actually makes me think of a book. I think it was called like Bad Genes or something like that. It was from a professor I had at UCLA by the name of Jay Phelan. And I remember one chapter in the book where he was talking about how evolutionarily we aren't hardwired to save money, because when we had anything that was valuable, it usually was perishable back in hunter-gatherer times. So if we had meat or foods or even other things that were of value, they weren't going to last infinitely. So it's against our evolutionary programming to be saving and hoarding these things, trying to accumulate them to then get more and more. It's not like, oh, let me hold on to this meat, and if I just wait 2 years, I'm going to have more meat, right? If you invest in the stock market, a broad index fund, based on prior performance, which again doesn't promise future returns, but looking at historic performance, you would essentially double your money every 7 years. You're not going to double your meat holding on to meat after 7 years. It's all just going to go bad, obviously, after just a couple of days. There's no refrigeration back then. And then this, of course, brings up the conversation of compound interest. So Albert Einstein ostensibly said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And there's a nice, powerful chart that he's created here, which shows you what saving 20% of your gross income, not your net, right? So the gross is before taxes, what it's going to get you, assuming only 5% returns on your investments, which is actually below the prior average, historic average of the S&P 500. And there are reasons why people expect that these future returns are going to be lower than what we've seen historically. So if we go to 400K, which is around the average for physicians in the US currently, then after 20 years, they'll have $2.6 million just saving 20% gross only and having 5% return on those investments. After 30 years, they'd be at over $5 million. And at 40 years, almost 10. Now, of course, if you're into something like neurosurgery, now you're closing in on 800K. Then after 40 years, you're at almost $20 million. Absolutely bonkers, right? All right, a somewhat embarrassing email exchange between myself. This is back when I was going as Jay because I wanted to keep things anonymous. I hadn't really disclosed who I was. Med School Insiders was a faceless channel. So a bit of an embarrassing exchange between myself and Jim, the founder of White Coat Investor. He starts off the email with $30,000. Are you joking? And he had this one sentence that really put things in perspective, which was, I'm used to psychiatrists asking how they can get rid of their 500K in student loans, not plastic surgeons asking how to pay off 30K. And again, when people think of plastics, they think of usually aesthetics. I was very much set on reconstructive, which pays a lot less than aesthetics. But still, he makes a good point. And yeah, I guess I'm ever the optimizer. And yeah, even if it's an easy thing, I want to do it in an optimal way. And for those who are curious, once I left residency and focused more on Med School Insiders, I did end up paying it off, but not in a mathematically optimal way because my loans were at 5%. And I think from a mathematically optimal view, I would have actually just done slow payments over however many years at 5% with the minimum payments to pay that off. But because of my own human bias and not mathematically optimal, I decided to just pay them off lump sum, 30K, boom, vanish. And just to get it off my back and to feel like blank slate, nothing that's hanging over me. And still, there's also always the risk of, can you actually beat 5% long term? And hindsight is 2020. So yes, at the time, it would have made more sense to invest that and then have returns far greater than 5% from that time period. But you don't know that at any time. So there's a guaranteed rate of return of 5% by paying it off, in my case. Or the risk of possibly beating it in something like a broad index fund in the stock market or whatever other real estate or other investment class you want to go with, or possibly underperforming. And my personal strategy is actually a little bit different, which is that, and by the way, this is not financial advice, educational, informational, entertainment purposes only. My personal approach has been that early on in my career, I wanted to have a very aggressive savings rate, much higher than 20%. The reason being, it is the hedonic treadmill. Whenever you start expanding how much you spend and indulging in more luxuries, you're going to adapt to that. And going backwards, going back to being frugal is going to be very painful. So you want to increase your lifestyle in a very slow, deliberate way, because by slowly and deliberately increasing your yearly spend, you're going to actually extend the amount of time that you feel that positive emotion from things being upgraded. So as an example, if you fly economy your whole life and then you go to first class, you're going to be like, "Oh my god, this is incredible." And then you can't do first class again, then you go back to economy or to premium economy, you're like, "What is this nonsense? This feels horrible." But if you start in economy and then you go to premium economy, I remember when I did that, I was like, "Oh my god, premium economy, I'm not bumping shoulders with the person. I got a little bit more leg room. I can lean back a bit more. This is fantastic." And then from premium economy, that starts to feel a little bit more normal. And then you go to business and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I can lay down. This is wild." So you're taking smaller, more frequent steps to elongate the benefits of that hedonic treadmill, that hedonic adaptation that occurs. I haven't even flown first class, so I don't know how that feels. And that's intentional. I want to spread these things out. Similarly with cars, right? I drove a Scion FRS for 9.5 years before I then upgraded to a Toyota GR86, which is the second version of the same car, but it's like a little bit newer, a little bit more comfortable. And then I upgraded to a Lotus, right? I didn't go from Scion FRS to all of a sudden Porsche GT3, right? I'm taking smaller steps, although the GR86 to the Lotus is a larger step. I guess that one I could have had smaller steps, but the kinds of cars I like, which are more communicative, that's a whole other conversation over on my car channel in case you like to dive deeper there. So that's part number one, which is to slow down the lifestyle creep. But then part two feeds into that, which is that at the beginning, I want to save a much larger portion of my income. Why is that? Because if I can get compounding to work for me early on, that's going to have such tremendous gains in the future, right? Because the way compounding works, the earlier you start the compounding process, the more you have that time to exponentially rise. So as an example, if you had $1,000, you just dropped it into one investment account, and let's say you just gained 10%, which is the historic average for the S&P. This is before inflation, so it's a little bit of a higher number, but just to simple math. After 30 years of $1,000, just letting it compound, not even contributing more, just letting that $1,000 compound on itself with the gains, you're going to have $17,000, actually $17,500. Whereas that same $1,000 over just 20 years compounds to around $6,500. So a little bit more than 1/3. So 20 years versus 30 years, 30 years has almost 3 times the amount versus 20 years. So this is why early on in my career, I felt that I should be very aggressive about saving and build that nest egg sooner. And then people talk about, "Oh, well, do you invest in real estate or do you invest in this, like these alternatives?" And I'm like, dude, who cares if I get 6% or 10% or 15% on my nest egg when my nest egg is $100,000? Because that's not going to actually meaningfully change my life in the short term. What will change my life in the short term and in the long term is to increase my income. So rather than just stressing about, "Oh my God, with $100,000, how do I optimize my returns?" Well, how about we get that $100,000 into $1 million? And you do that by increasing your income at a far more accelerated pace while not actually increasing your expenses to match it. And then once you have that larger nest egg, you can let the compounding work on it. And now in the future, you aren't as pressured to have to keep an aggressive savings rate. You can now let go of the purse strings a little bit, and you can allow that lifestyle creep to occur. By the way, if you want to learn how to increase your income, we have the Physician Income Accelerator, which will be launching later this year to help med students, residents, and doctors increase their income with online businesses through social media. So if you want to learn more, check out the link below. We will be talking about other financial literacy and investment educational content as well to help guide you, because this is something that I have obsessed about since I was finishing up med school about a decade ago. And I read all of the White Coat Investor books and obsessed over the personal finance subreddit and various other things, and got involved in some alternative investments. And anyways, there's a lot that I've learned. I want to share it with you guys because this is something that has absolutely transformed my life and given me a lot more peace of mind. And money means different things to different people. For one of my friends, it was the freedom to travel and not have to work and just enjoy his life. For me, it's security. We didn't have much money growing up, and there was a lot of stress and conflict over that. And for you, it might be something totally different. And money isn't a bad thing, right? Money is a tool, and if you can use that tool to your benefit and to your community and your family's benefit, then it's a huge net positive. Anyway, my friends, let me know what you think with a comment down below. Much love, and I'll see you all in the next one.